Imagine a blue sedan gliding down a quiet suburban street at dusk. It's a scene that plays out in neighborhoods everywhere. One car, one route, nothing out of the ordinary. On Monday, Mark is behind the wheel. He's just finished work, his mind drifting to dinner plans and the latest podcast episode. The drive is routine, almost automatic. He makes a late signal, turns, and parks. No drama, no attention. Even when he forgets to signal until the last second, no one seems to notice. The world moves on, unbothered. Mark blends into the background, just another commuter heading home. No one gives him a second glance. But on Tuesday, everything is the same, except for one detail. Sarah, Mark's wife, is driving the same blue sedan down the same street at the same time. She follows the same route, keeps the same speed, even makes the same late signal at the turn. Nothing about her driving stands out. At least it shouldn't. But this time, flashing red and blue lights suddenly fill her rearview mirror. A police cruiser appears, signaling her to pull over. Her heart races as she pulls over, hands tight on the wheel. She wonders what she did wrong. Was it the late signal? Was she speeding? Or is it something else? The only thing that changed, the driver's gender. The same car, the same actions, but a completely different outcome. For many women, driving isn't just about getting from point A to point B. It means being watched, judged, and sometimes stopped for reasons that feel arbitrary or unfair. It's not about who's a better driver. It's about hidden bias. Studies show that women, especially women of color, are more likely to be stopped for minor infractions or vague, suspicious behavior. For women, a routine drive can quickly become an anxiety-filled encounter. Many describe feeling singled out, vulnerable, and unsure of how the situation will unfold. The simple act of driving while female can be enough to raise suspicion. It's a phrase many women use to describe the feeling of being targeted for no clear reason. This is a reality for countless women every day. The same car, the same street, but a very different story. One shaped by hidden bias and the simple fact of being a woman behind the wheel. The reasons women are pulled over often sound vague. Failure to maintain lane, driving too cautiously, rolling stop, or even driving with a cracked taillight, or hesitating too long at a stop sign, not signaling early enough, or driving with an air freshener hanging from the mirror. These subjective excuses give officers wide discretion, allowing them to interpret almost any minor action as a reason to stop a driver. Maria, a teacher, was pulled over for being too careful at a stop sign and questioned about her destination and sobriety. Linda, an executive, was stopped for improper lane change on an empty highway, then interrogated about her job and why she was out late. No ticket, just questions. These stops rarely feel like they're about safety. Instead, they create anxiety and uncertainty, leaving women to wonder what they did wrong. Suspicious behavior is another catch-all reason. Anything from driving in a certain neighborhood to looking nervous or even appearing lost. Chloe, a college student, was told her car matched a description but got no details, just a long, nerve-wracking interrogation. Others have been stopped for driving a vehicle that looks out of place or making eye contact with an officer. The pattern is clear. The initial reason is often a pretext, a way to initiate contact and look for something more. The real goal? To question, probe, and assess the driver, often fishing for inconsistencies or signs of guilt. The vagueness makes it impossible to argue, putting women at a disadvantage. They're left trying to defend themselves against accusations that are hard to disprove. The officer holds all the power. The woman is left confused and intimidated, unsure of what will happen next. These stops aren't about traffic, they're about control. The ambiguity of the excuses allows officers to assert authority with little accountability. For women, the road is never just a road. It's a place where they're constantly assessed, judged, and sometimes targeted for reasons that are never fully explained. And the reasons for the stop are rarely as simple as they seem. The impact lingers, leaving women wary, frustrated, and always on guard for the next vague excuse. Data backs up these stories. Women are stopped more often. In a 2022 national survey, women accounted for nearly 55% of all routine traffic stops, despite making up less than half of licensed drivers. Yet women are ticketed less than men. Only about 35% of stops involving women result in a citation, compared to 52% for men. Dr. Lisa Grant, a criminologist, explains, "If enforcement was the goal, ticket rates would closely match stop rates. The gap suggests something else is at play. Instead, many stops are assessment stops, opportunities for officers to judge and gather information, not necessarily to enforce the law. Experts note that officers may see women as less confrontational, making them easier targets for questioning and informal searches. These stops are rarely about a clear violation. In fact, only 18% of stops involving women cite a specific infraction. The rest are often fishing expeditions. The result? Women are assessed, not cited, and left feeling scrutinized for who they are, not what they did. Studies show repeated stops increase anxiety and distrust. This erodes trust and reinforces the sense that policing isn't always about fairness. According to a 2023 poll, 62% of women reported feeling targeted during traffic stops. The message: you're stopped not for your actions, but for your identity. Experts agree. Addressing this bias is essential for restoring trust and fairness. Officers' decisions are shaped by training and unconscious bias. In police academies, recruits are taught to look for signs of nervousness or unusual behavior. But what's considered unusual is often colored by stereotypes. Gender stereotypes turn normal behavior, like checking mirrors or driving cautiously, into suspicious acts for women. For example, a woman glancing repeatedly in her mirrors may simply be making sure she's safe, but officers might interpret this as her watching for police. Women's learned safety habits, like being hyper-aware, are misread as signs of guilt. In one real-life case, a woman was stopped after an officer noticed her constantly scanning her surroundings. A behavior she later explained was due to past experiences with harassment. Fumbling for documents or driving slowly in a new area? These are common actions for anyone unfamiliar with their surroundings, but for women, they're often seen as attempts to hide something. For men, it's forgetfulness. For women, it's suspicious. A study found that officers were more likely to attribute a woman's hesitation to guilt, while a man's was chalked up to confusion or nerves. These judgments aren't based on evidence, but on gendered assumptions. Psychological research shows that people are more likely to see women's anxiety as a sign of deception, rather than fear. The result: women are pulled over for behaviors that wouldn't raise an eyebrow if a man did them. In another example, a woman was stopped for driving too carefully late at night, while a man driving the same way was ignored. The road becomes a stage where women are judged by a script they never wrote. Even something as simple as locking car doors at a stoplight can be seen as paranoid or hiding something. Ordinary actions become reasons for scrutiny. The psychological toll is real. Women learn to second-guess every move, knowing that what's normal for them might be seen as suspicious by someone else. What starts as a routine traffic stop, maybe a broken taillight or a missed signal, quickly turns personal for many women. The initial question is familiar: "Do you know why I pulled you over?" But soon the conversation shifts. The officer asks, "Where are you headed tonight? Why are you out alone? Or is anyone expecting you?" For women, these questions feel invasive and judgmental, as if their very presence on the road needs to be justified. Sarah, who was stopped after a late shift, recalls the officer asking, "Does your husband know you're out this late?" She felt a wave of embarrassment and frustration, forced to explain her work schedule and marital status to a stranger in uniform. "I'm just coming home from work," she replied, her voice tight. But the questions kept coming. "Why not take a cab? Are you sure you're okay to drive?" The stop drifts away from traffic safety and becomes a probe into her personal life. Each question chips away at her sense of autonomy, making her feel scrutinized for her choices rather than her driving. The imbalance of power is stark: an officer with authority, a woman with growing unease and a racing heart. She grips the steering wheel, her mind racing. Will I be safe? What if I say the wrong thing? These personal questions aren't about safety. They're about control, about sizing her up, about deciding if she belongs. The officer's gaze lingers, evaluating, judging, turning a simple stop into an interrogation of her character. For women, the stop becomes a test of character, not just compliance. A moment where privacy is stripped away under the guise of routine policing. It's a violation of privacy, a moment that lingers long after the flashing lights fade. For generations, women have been socialized to be polite, deferential, and non-confrontational, especially when dealing with authority figures. This conditioning is deeply rooted in history, where women were taught to avoid conflict and always show respect, no matter the situation. These societal expectations don't just shape behavior, they create what's known as the politeness trap. Women, conditioned to be agreeable, often over-explain and answer every question, even when it's not required. Trying to be helpful, many women give more details than necessary, hoping to resolve the situation quickly. But officers may use this information to prolong the stop, asking follow-up questions or digging deeper. Setting boundaries can feel risky. Many women fear that being direct or refusing to answer could be seen as disrespectful, or even escalate the situation. One woman recalled, "I wanted to ask if I could leave, but I was afraid it would make things worse." Men, on the other hand, are often socialized to be assertive. They might ask, "Am I being detained, or am I free to go?" But women frequently hesitate, unsure if it's safe to push back. The result? Politeness is mistaken for consent, and the stop drags on. The longer the encounter, the more uncomfortable it becomes. Anxiety rises, and the encounter becomes more stressful. For many women, these moments feel endless. Social expectations, shaped by decades of conditioning, keep women trapped in uncomfortable, extended stops, often feeling powerless to change the outcome. Beneath the surface, there's a deep, overwhelming fear, a fear for personal safety that lingers long after the flashing lights fade. Being alone at night with an armed stranger is terrifying for anyone. But for women, it's a fear that's often accompanied by memories of warnings, stories from friends, and the knowledge that things can go wrong in an instant. High-profile cases of police violence echo in their minds, amplifying the anxiety and making every second feel like an eternity. Fear shapes every word and movement, trembling hands, a shaky voice, avoiding eye contact. Anne, a young professional, recalls, "My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept thinking, don't make a sudden move, don't give them a reason." Officers may misread these signs of fear as guilt or deception, escalating the situation and deepening the sense of helplessness. Many women describe complying with questionable requests, not out of agreement, but out of fear. "I just wanted it to be over," says another woman. "I said yes to everything, even when I knew I shouldn't have." The power imbalance is overwhelming. Refusing or questioning feels impossible when you're alone and afraid. The goal shifts from resolving a ticket to simply surviving the encounter. The relief when it's over is mixed with exhaustion and lingering anxiety. This silent burden is invisible to most officers, but it's a heavy reality for millions of women, one that leaves psychological scars long after the stop ends. For them, a traffic stop isn't just a legal procedure, it's a test of survival, and the emotional toll can last for days, weeks, or even years. Systemic bias in policing isn't a new phenomenon. It's rooted in decades, sometimes centuries, of institutional practices and policies that have shaped how officers interact with the public. Historically, policing strategies like proactive, stops and broken windows policing have disproportionately targeted marginalized groups, including women, under the guise of maintaining order. Experts point out that these policies often encourage officers to focus on those perceived as less likely to resist, frequently women, reinforcing gendered assumptions about compliance and threat. Yet, most training programs still fail to address how gender and historical stereotypes shape these encounters, leaving officers ill-equipped to recognize their own biases. The command and control model, designed for compliance, can be especially intimidating for women. Experts warn that officers may misinterpret fear or anxiety as guilt, escalating situations unnecessarily. Real change requires more than surface-level reforms. It means rethinking priorities, overhauling training to include gender and bias awareness, and holding departments accountable for outcomes, not just intentions. Blaming individual officers misses the bigger picture. The system itself, shaped by history, policy, and culture, must be transformed. Only by confronting these deep-rooted issues can we hope to achieve fair, unbiased policing for everyone. Change starts with awareness, action, and preparation. Before you drive, review your rights. Carry a Know Your Rights card in your glove compartment or save a digital copy on your phone. Remember, you can remain silent and politely refuse to answer personal questions beyond providing your license, registration, and proof of insurance. If you're unsure, calmly ask, "Am I being detained, or am I free to go?" This simple question can clarify your situation. If an officer asks to search your car, you have the right to say, "I do not consent to a search." Say it clearly and respectfully. Consent must be given freely. Stay calm, keep your hands visible, and avoid sudden movements. Knowing these boundaries helps protect you during stops. Anne, a mother of two, recalls how calmly stating her rights helped her avoid an unnecessary search. Sharing your story matters. When women speak out, patterns emerge and can't be ignored. If you've experienced a traffic stop, write down everything you remember as soon as possible. Details matter. Share your experience with trusted friends, community groups, or online platforms dedicated to accountability and reform. This isn't about being anti-police, it's about demanding fairness and equity for everyone on the road. By shining a light on these hidden patterns, you help others prepare and protect themselves. Attend local town halls, join advocacy groups, and support reform efforts. Your voice adds power to the movement. Every story shared, every right asserted, is a step toward justice and safer roads for all.